first started in martial arts, I was about 3.5. The movie that got me into the martial arts was called The Karate Kid, and that was my major influence to get me into the martial arts. I liked the movie because I think it showed what kind of things the martial arts did for somebody's life. And after watching that movie and getting into the martial arts, it has affected my life in the same way.
Josh started the martial arts by running into somebody that he used to play down the street with, that I thought. He'd come home and he'd show me some kicks and some punches, and I really didn't think nothing of it. Till the movie came out. The movie came out, all of a sudden he's interested in this karate, or the Karate Kid. So I took him down to a club that was around us at the time, and it was Master Everett Wright. So Josh went in there, and he just started doing things right off the bat that the instructor said, this is one kid out of a couple of thousand that walks in the gym. And he said he'll be a champion of anything that he wants to do.
After I went to Taekwondo, I started with Qually Farmer in Goju Kai. That is that was where I got my roots to the martial arts, that I believe. After I took my martial arts with Qually Farmer, I started with Goju-Ryu with Ken Harris. After with Goju-Ryu, I was with Peter Osich in Kyokushinkai. After I was with Peter Osich, I was with Micah Miles with Shorin-Ryu. That is basically what the routes I've taken through my martial arts. Taekwondo at that time was more feet than it was hands. And when I took that, that's where I learned most of my feet. Goju Kai, which is where I got my roots, was a full contact club. And that's where I learned how to defend myself and how to use my hands as well. All the different styles I had, I picked up something off of them. That is why I believe that all martial arts have something to offer for everyone.
It was hard for me to watch him because it was a full contact club, so he would get a bleeding nose or a cut lip. The odd time he would get a black eye, and the instructor would tell me, this is all right, he can handle everything that he's going through. I mean, I used to hide behind the curtain and watch him. I just couldn't watch it. I said, you know, like, I can't take watching my son get hurt like this. And they would settle me down and show me that, you know, what it's all about and how things happen with him, and that you want self-defense, this is self-defense.
Well, I guess back then, I mean, I just thought this is something he does. I mean, all kids play baseball or hockey or soccer or something, and he just happened to participate in the martial arts. I was interested in it, and I really enjoyed going to his tournaments, and I guess it took a while for me to realize how really exceptional he was. But after the first tournament, I guess you realize this is a little bit different than most kids.
After he studied Goju-Ryu, he wanted to keep taking different styles, different arts. I ran into a person that was taking Kung Fu, and Josh was just like a sponge with another art. The person would come over to the house, and Josh and him would train downstairs, and I wouldn't even think nothing of it because there was always different martial art people coming over to spend time with Josh.
Competition is when you go in to test your skills that you have learned against other people from different countries or from around the city. And what you do is you can sign up for the different things that you want to test your skills for, whether it be kata, weapons, or sparring, for all ages. And they're sorted into belt levels.
No, I'm never nervous, because I know he's not nervous. He goes into it very clear-headed, and he focuses on what he's doing. He's not only a good winner, but he's a good loser as well. He's very polite. He doesn't get into any altercations with the kids outside of it. He just really enjoys it, and he has a really good attitude about it. And I know that when he goes into it, whether he wins or loses, I know he'll walk out of it just learning from it.
No, not even there, Josh.
What I'm thinking about is just going in to accomplish what I'm going in to do. Going to test my skills. You don't really need to get nervous because you just go in there to do what you usually do, just against other people. When you get in there to do what you're set out to do, your focus comes in and you don't hear nothing. All your focus is in what you're going to do.
Josh, I was never too sure exactly if it was just one style for him. He always wanted more. Show me more. He was forever with his instructors, and everywhere he's been, he's always show me more. And if he couldn't get it, then he wanted to discuss it. And then it became into a long discussion session. Maybe I would like to try this style. Maybe I'd like to try that style. So with me, it was find out what style, were you sure, and then let's go do it.
Yeah!
Then we'd go out and find the club, find the style, and away he would go.
I think what gives me the most satisfaction is when I go into a big division and against people 3 or 4 times as tall as me and come out with something knowing that I've gained more knowledge. The knowledge is what that I go into the tournaments for.
There's a lot of people out there going, my art, my style is better than yours. Where Josh has never been like that. Josh has always been, all martial arts and all styles have something to offer. And I'm here to show you that.
The best tournament I ever went to was in Dawson Creek, and that's what stands out most in my mind because it was the best tournament I've ever been to. It was a small town, and it was just a great place to go to a tournament. We had to party before we went to the tournament, we had to party after, and we had to party before we left. It was an awesome tournament. It doesn't really matter to me how many trophies I have, because all they are is to show you when you go out to accomplish something at a tournament, it's just to show you that you've accomplished what you set out to accomplish. And when I win them, usually I just said, here, put the plastics in the truck, because usually that's all they mean to me. They have no sentimental value besides that, to show me what I've accomplished. I work out every day for about 2.5 hours. Before I get into my serious training, I like to go for a run down in Beaver Dam Park, and just to get my muscles warmed up for my workout. After I finish my run, I like to start my katas. What it is a series of movements that is put together to defend or attack against 4 or more imaginary opponents. So that is what I do to get myself more warmed up. After I do my katas, which warms up all my muscles with my kicks and my punches, I start my stretches. And then I start working on my weapons.
The times that I have went through my roughest periods with Josh as a single parent would be when he was getting hurt, just training. The tournaments were nothing. The training was the hard part. I would have to push him the odd time to say, let's go out to the club, when he's got a black eye. And he knew that he had to go out and train hard. So when he trained hard, by the time he got to the tournament was nothing. But it was all the training that was the hard part.
Jumping spin kick. My dad has helped me through my whole stage of life and my martial arts. I think that my dad has always tried to help me out with however he could. He's always trying to get me different things and telling people about me, and I think that he's really proud of me, and I like him being proud of me. I really love my dad, and I'm really glad that he helps me out with whatever choices I have to make.
I don't think the martial arts has hindered him at all. I think it's taught him a lot about being disciplined and being focused, about learning and working with others, about not confronting people in a physical way, but actually working it out. And karate is to be used only in the dojo, not outside.
Currently, I've been thinking about making a video, self-defense, for a kid, taught by a kid. And I think that I could help other kids because I am a kid. And I went through the same stages. And I think that I know how to teach them. Presently, my goal is just to take it as it comes, and I'd really like to become a doctor when I get older. Yes!
He's been out to Mini University where he wanted to check into being a doctor, so we took a course out there during the summer and got to work on cadavers, and then he come back from that and he was excited about that. The following summer he wanted to try other things.
You know, if I ever marry or have children of my own someday, I think he'll definitely always be a part of my life. I can see being at his grad or at his wedding or his kids kind of thing. I can definitely see being with him always.
To me, one of the finest accomplishments that he had in the martial arts, that he won his first grand championship at 7 years old. And then we walked out of there and he said, I want to go see my instructor, because one of his instructors were both at work and they didn't even know that he was entering that tournament. And we went out to a steel company where the Thai farmer was at, and Josh took all his trophies and they went through the plant to get him, and then he come out and he was just amazed by it. And then we went over to where his Sensei Colleen farmer worked, and he brought his trophies in there and to show her, and that just showed me he had respect for everything and everybody around him.
I was downtown when I seen white smoke up in this area, but I figured being it was white smoke that it wasn't a house fire or anything. So on my way home, I was about a block away, and my neighbors next door told me that the house was on fire, so I ran over here. But I was told, when I went to talk to somebody, the fire department put me over towards the police van, and just trying to figure out where everybody was, if anybody was home.
The fire department is usually the first people on the scene. Disaster services, the department of the fire department, would call in Red Cross. We get the phone call, and they're usually 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're called out. We should respond within hopefully half an hour to the event. Once we get on site, usually the fire or the event is being taken care of by the different services, and we meet up with the family.
Greg and Charisse were the ones that were in the house at the time, and apparently from what she said, she tried to go down the stairs, and couldn't. There was too much smoke up there already, but the stairs were too hot, so they had to go out the window and jump over to the roof next door. And then they had somebody put a ladder there to help them down. We managed after a while to locate everybody. The last one was Dave. We didn't know where he was at first. And then trying to find out where the family cat was. And I got word on that a little later in the evening while I was watching the fire.
What we try and do is take them as far away from the scene as possible. Usually it's in a neighbor's house, or sometimes a car, or sometimes a city bus, and try and keep them away so that they may not have to take a look at what's happening to their home, and we can try and deal with their needs right at that point. Other times we may take them to a friend's home, or even the neighbor, or a hotel. And it's difficult for them to watch how the firefighters are fighting the fire, because sometimes they may have to break windows, or chop holes in walls or roofs and that type of thing, and that is very difficult for them to see.
The fire, from what I was told, started at about 2:30 in the afternoon, and it was dark by the time they put it out. There was a hockey game on that night, so it created quite a problem for traffic, since nobody could come through on 12th. But after the fire and that, we just more or less, nobody really wanted to go to sleep that night, so we more or less just wandered around, since we didn't really have any place to go to. Went for coffee and that at a couple donut shops, and down to Denny's to have something to eat, and come back to the house around 4 o'clock in the morning. Everything had cooled down and that by then, since it was quite cold out. I took pictures of the interior and that myself. The following day to the Red Cross, since I'd remembered something about that concerning their disaster relief type thing, I spoke to somebody there about it. It showed the things that were in the paper after we'd got the morning papers and that, so we can check and see what they had to say about the fire. But the Red Cross helped set us up in a hotel for 3 days with meals, and set up with paperwork to go to Interfaith to get some furniture.
We try and help them with, their clothing needs, or their food needs, or any type of medication. We also help them in contacting other family members or friends. So in the event that they can't go back in their home, family may be looking for them. So we help them with that type of service. We stay with the family right until almost they go to bed. Make sure that everything's okay with them, and tell them that we meet with them the next morning. We usually have volunteers that go in and meet with them the next day, usually like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning type of thing, after things have calmed down a little bit, and we do a further assessment from there.
Gave us, I forget the little bag that they gave us. It had a toothbrush in it, toothpaste, brush, shampoo, bar of soap, a few basic little necessities that are needed.
Dealing with the children, that is the toughest part, because they don't really have a great understanding of what's happened to them. All they want is their home back and their toys and their things.
There was once some stuffed animals that I picked up at the Stampede grounds, last Stampede, that I'd won for her daughter, and I haven't seen her in a few months, but they were one for her, but now I've got to try and get them replaced again. We lost, 8 dressers, 5 TVs, older ones, but they still worked. We lost, a double bed, 2 single beds, a couple of love seats and sofas, the kitchen table and a credenza, china cabinet, another stove with a double oven one that was destroyed in the kitchen, a few pictures and that. A couple unusual pictures survived that even my ministers considering most unusual. Biblical pictures that survived the fire. So those we're still wondering about. But the only big casualty was losing the cat, the family pet.
That was Patches.
Yeah, Patch. Called named for that due to the fact he only had one eye. Named for something that he should have had. If he could have found some way to put it on that he wouldn't try and take it off. When I was watching the fire, once I knew where everybody was in that, it hadn't bothered me to the point, because I knew most stuff could be replaced. It's sort of, I didn't actually break down until I found out about the cat. That's sort of when it did me in. Didn't know what to say or do then, other than the tears.
One of the things that always stays with me is the type of gratitude that you receive from the victims that you're helping. We're being strangers. We're meeting these people at 2 o'clock in the morning and that type of thing. And the affection from people is something that always stays with me. Somebody that you'd never expect to get a hug from comes up and gives you a hug, and it is really holding on. And very grateful for the type of service that you're providing.
Also, I had help from my church. My church here and a church up in Standard also helped out with furniture and food and other things. Even up to as far as recently as just a couple weeks ago from Standard. My minister and I, we went out there with the company truck and picked up some furniture and that had been donated. And a comforter that had been, apparently I was told it was made specifically for me from an 83-year-old woman out there. No, it's just basically trying to rebuild, get more furniture, try and rebuild my toy collection. Because I had a collection of Volkswagen toys that most of them were destroyed in the fire. So I could try and rebuild that, and that's put a 20 years worth of collection. Some dishes survived. A jar of pickles is basically intact, but we don't know whether they're any good or not. We haven't opened them yet. A picture of called The Way of the Cross, showing the 14 stations involving coming up to the part of when Jesus ends up on the cross, and that one being the main picture in the middle. Plus a small three-dimensional picture of Jesus on the cross that was melted in one corner, but it didn't actually touch the picture of him in it. Melted the corner where the cross was, but it didn't touch his hand in that corner. Those survived, and a few other little odds and ends. Most of my pictures managed to survive, at least the negatives anyway. Some of the pictures were destroyed. A lot of the stuffed animals were destroyed. A bottle of scotch that survived, that we still haven't figured out how or why.
That's good scotch.
Yeah, even though everything else around it was melted down. The VCR, the TV, and the stereo that was right below it.
If I'm ever in this type of situation, I would really like to have somebody there to help me. I couldn't imagine losing everything and not having any support, not having any resources to go to, not knowing where I should go and how I'm going to feed myself and how, where I'm going to live. So that's my reward, is to be able to provide those services to people.
Time I used to spend here and that, and the weekends with my daughter and that. So things like that, with some of the good memories of what was here.
Working at Glenmore Christian Academy, I heard the bell choir there, and it was the first time I'd ever seen or heard a bell choir. I was delighted. I was thrilled with the sound and with the musical abilities that the children had. There was another director at the time, and every noon hour when she practiced, I would run down to the practice room and hope one kid would be away so I could play that part. And that's how I started. After that teacher left, I was asked to take over the bell program, and I've attended a number of workshops and handbell camps in order to learn about the bells.
I've been working with handbells for about 9 years, and I've always enjoyed working with children that way. And it's a really nice medium because the children achieve success right away when they're playing it, and they hear music and they're learning how to read music, and they get more and more accomplished as musicians, and it makes them feel like really good about themselves.
Well, it started out when we went down for a small little concert down in our gymnasium, and from then on I really wanted, when it was my time for H, I would go down to the music room and try out for it. And I was mostly interested in the bass clef, which is the heavy bells, the big ones.
I'm not nervous as long as I'm conducting. I'm nervous whether or not the kids will show up, whether they will have their complete uniforms, whether I have got all the bells packed and all the equipment packed.
It's more the technical aspects. I know they're always going to pull it off when it comes to performing. Even though they may drive me nuts beforehand, they always rise to the occasion.
I don't get nervous, but it's just neat seeing all the people looking at you, and you can smile and you just know that people are watching you, and you feel like you've done something special.
I just try to forget about like being nervous, and I don't tense up. I'll just try to remember what I'm doing in the music, but I won't totally concentrate on it and just let it go as it comes. I like lots of different kinds of music. I like contemporary and alternative music, and the kind of music we play in handbells is nice too. It's kind of relaxing and more kind of church kind of music, and it's just kind of nice for a change sometimes.
Usually before we come to performances, we'll have a practice round, and if we're kind of rambunctious, and our music teacher will try to settle us down by making us laugh or telling us jokes or something.
It's team effort because, well, when you play the handbells, you have to do it as a group, so everything sounds good. You can't have one person playing louder than the other, and that way it wouldn't sound good.
The thing that will prevent them from being nervous is practicing and knowing that they're going to do a good job. So the preparation beforehand is the key to the whole thing. So if we practice beforehand and practice in front of the school and practice in front of people and make sure that they know that they're going to do a good job, then they do.
Some of the kids have performed so extensively in other musical areas since they were tiny children that they really don't get too nervous. However, perhaps sometimes my nervousness rubs off on them and they get a little uptight before some of the larger performances. But for the most part, they're very calm and cool.
I think what I get most out of it is knowing that the young ladies and gentlemen are feeling really good about themselves and are accomplishing a great deal and doing a really good job. And it's just their pride in themselves, and everyone who hears them, their parents' pride in them, and the school's pride in the work that they do, and the fact that they do a really good job.